So this is our monthly new partner introduction webinar. This is sort of a high-level overview of all of the main products that we offer here. So it's for those of you that are new and just wanting to get a handle on all the different products we offer, or those of you that have been around for a while and are just looking for a refresher. As we go through today, go ahead and send in any questions you have using the chat part of the Zoom interface, and I'll do my best to try to answer those questions. So we'll start off with a little background on who Zyxel is. So Zyxel's been making computer networking equipment since 1989. We have been doing this a long time. We serve 150 different global markets, and the United States is actually one of our smaller markets. We've deployed over 100 million devices out in the field, and we have a little over 700 global employees. So we have presence in a lot of different countries. For North America, our headquarters is based out of Anaheim, California. So Southern California, that is our warehouse, that is our sales team, that is our tech support, that is everything. So when you're calling in to talk to somebody or you need help on something, if you're calling in during business hours, you are talking to somebody that is a Zyxel employee based out of the United States. So Zyxel itself is part of a larger company known as the Zyxel Group. And I wanted to highlight a few key things here. I am part of Zyxel Networks. So Zyxel Networks is the division that makes our what we would traditionally call channel products. So those are, Ethernet switches, wireless access points, security gateways, things that are usually used in SMB networking. We have a sister company called Zyxel Communications, and they are focused primarily on the ISP space. So, CenturyLink, Verizon, those types of ISPs. So there obviously is a little bit of overlap between us, but they are primarily focused on CPE, so customer premise equipment, the little boxes that your ISP gives you to put in your home when you sign up for business. And then our sister company here, MitraStar, does most of our manufacturing. So they own our factories and run those factories for us. We have factories both in Taiwan and in China. So just trying to summarize it here for you. So when it comes to ISP type networking, that's Zyxel Communications. When it comes to business networking, that's Zyxel Networks. So our key focus here are the key areas that we like to focus on is quality, staying up with the latest technologies, and making sure our products are affordable. So this is just sort of summarizing here our key product categories. I've kind of already hit on this, but wireless access points, switches, and security products are our main focus here at Zyxel Networks. We have our own large R&D. We aren't just taking, designs coming from the chipset vendors and slapping our name on it. We have our own R&D design teams there. And because of that, we're able to offer things like Nebula, which was the first full stack cloud networking solution out there aimed at the SMB space. But it also allows us to do things like our switches. Our switches run our own operating system called Zynos. And so because of that, regardless of whether you're using a 1900 series switch, a 2000 series switch, or a 3000 series switch, the naming, the configuration settings, things like that are consistent regardless of which chipset we are using in the switch itself. So as I hinted at here already, one of the key things that makes Zyxel different is Nebula. So Nebula is something that touches on all of our main product categories, and basically it gives you a single pane of glass to manage all of your Zyxel devices at all of your different customers. So we launched Nebula all the way back in 2016. We have been doing this longer than anybody that targets the SMB space. So Nebula itself doesn't require any special software in order to be able to use it or extra hardware that needs to be purchased. Nebula is built into our Nebula Flex compatible products, which allows you basically to simply deploy the hardware, scan it in, assign it to your customer, and it will automatically put itself into cloud management mode and automatically download its configuration. So there's no local configuration required on the products, no additional software, no virtual machines that need to be set up. It's basically zero touch provisioning, just plug and play. So some of the key features here on Nebula is we give you a single pane of glass to be able to monitor and manage all of your customers and all of their networks. And it was designed from the ground up with the idea that you are going to have multiple customers and you may have multiple sites to make it really easy to organize and manage those. Where a lot of the other solutions aimed at the SMB space are really designed for one account, one company, one site. So using Nebula is really simple. Log into nebula.zyxel.com, create what we call an organization. So generally each of your customers will be their own organization, and your admin account can have as many organizations as you want. Create at least one site for that customer. When you get your Zyxel hardware, you simply scan the QR code that's normally found on the outside of the box or on the belly label of the product, assign it to that customer and site, and then ship the hardware off to the location where it's going to be installed. Once it has power and an internet connection, it will automatically connect to our cloud, and you'll be able to do full management there. So another nice tool that comes along with Nebula is our mobile app. So the mobile app itself is not where you're going to do most of your management. Management is done through the web interface, but the mobile app is there to help you keep an provide the ability to keep a easily be able to check on the status of your customers' networks. It does provide some very basic configuration options, but the main tool of this guy here is for your installers. So you can use this app to scan those QR codes and assign the device to a customer on location. You can also photograph the device where you've installed it at and save that to the cloud. So future installers need to go on site, it can help them find it. It also integrates with Google Maps and the ability to load in a floor plan to be able to place the devices on that floor plan or Google Map. So as I mentioned earlier, there's nothing extra you need to buy or do to use Nebula. It just is there. So to use Nebula, you need to buy a product that's known as Nebula Flex, and you'll usually see that in the description. So what does Nebula Flex mean? So Nebula Flex is there because not all of you want to manage things in the cloud. And rather than have two different product lines like Cisco and Meraki, where one is cloud and one is standalone, we just want to give you one lineup of products. Those products can work in your traditional management mode or can work in cloud mode. So again, to put these in cloud mode, it's really easy. You scan that QR code. Once the device has been assigned to a customer and site, it will detect that you now want to manage it in the cloud. It will put itself into cloud mode and reboot and download the configuration from the cloud. If at any point you want to put it back in standalone mode, it's really easy. You simply remove it from your inventory in Nebula, and the device will detect that and automatically factory reset itself and put it back into standalone mode for you. Now, Nebula itself is free, so we call that the base pack. That is the core functionality. It gives you access to all of the things you would expect to have when it comes to managing devices, but we do offer some optional licenses which unlock additional features, particularly for those of you that are providing managed services. The main one I'll focus on here is ProPack. So ProPack license, when you use this, it will unlock a lot of additional functionality for you. So some of the things it does for you is it will store a year's worth of logs in the cloud, including an audit or change log where it tracks every configuration change and when it was made for to help you for troubleshooting. It gives you access to things like our artificial intelligence, which can automatically monitor your wireless network and make changes to your wireless network for you if it detects your users are having issues. It unlocks an unlimited number of admin accounts per organization. It unlocks push notifications and a number of other features. The other license we have is a user license called the MSP pack. So this is a license you would buy for one or more admin accounts, and it unlocks additional features that all of your customers who are being accessed through that admin account. So it's primarily for those of you that are running larger MSPs where you've got a large number of customers you're managing and a large staff of admins that you need to manage. So it unlocks things like what we call an MSP view to give you a quick and easy view of all of your customers and the status of their networks. It allows you to create teams. So instead of having to add individual admins on a per org basis or per site basis, you can create teams, assign users to those teams, and then simply add or remove those teams from your customers' orgs or sites. So when it comes to Nebula, it covers an awful lot of products here. So we have two rows of products here. These top row of products are what we call Nebula Flex. The bottom row of products are Nebula Flex Pro. So what's the difference? So the difference is Nebula Flex products work standalone or in the cloud. Nebula Flex Pro also works standalone or in the cloud, but they come bundled with 1 year of that Pro Pack license out of the box. That's the only real difference as far as the difference between Nebula Flex and Nebula Flex Pro. So to make it easy here for you, when it comes to Nebula Flex access points, any access points that starts with the letter N is Nebula Flex. Any access points that starts with the letter W is Nebula Flex Pro. And then the W series access points do unlock some additional features outside of Nebula that you may be interested in. On the switches, anything that's basically a 19 series switch, 1915 and higher is going to be Nebula Flex. Anything that is 2000, 3000, or 1300 series, those are Nebula Flex Pro. And then when it comes to our security appliances, anything that comes bundled with UTM services is going to include that 1 year Pro Pack. Anything which doesn't include any bundled license does not include the bundled Nebula. So for those of you that don't want to do cloud, we do have on-premise solutions when it comes to help you manage your products. So one of those things I was mentioning earlier about the W series is they have some extra features. So one of those extra features is the ability to be managed with a local controller, and that local controller is built into most of our USG Flex security appliances. So those have that built-in wireless LAN controller. So if you don't want to use the cloud, you can manage your APs that way. We also have some software tools that make it easy to discover Zyxel devices on your network and automatically give you a list of those Zyxel devices, tell you what their IP address is, give you a hot button to let you reboot those devices to push out firmware updates or to access the GUI of those devices. So that's it as far as Nebula and local management goes. If you want to learn more about Nebula, we do an almost monthly webinar talking about Nebula in a little bit more in depth. So feel free to join one of those. We'll start talking about different product lines now. So we'll start by talking about our wireless LAN products. So we've grouped these together into basically 3 different categories, what we're calling simplicity, flexibility, and ultimate. So basically, to start with, we have our N series access points. So those that are below 100, such as the NWA 90 or an NWA 50, those are our simplicity line. These are products that are aimed at that prosumer or SOHO space. So these come with just a 2-year warranty, where all of the rest of our access points have a lifetime warranty. They also may be missing some features such as AP load balancing or captive portal functionality. And then the flexibility series are those N series access points that start at least with 100. So the 110BE, NWA 210BE, NWA 220, etc. Those are part of our flexibility series. So these are our true entry-level SMB access points. They have the full set of features. They come with a lifetime warranty, and they are Nebula Flex. And then the next series above that is our W series here, or the ultimate access points. So these ones are sort of enterprise or large business access points. And these come bundled with 1 year of Nebula Flex when you buy them. These also support the local controller if you want to do that. These also support our secure Wi-Fi functionality, where you can convert an access point into a cloud-managed remote VPN appliance to make it easy for you to provide a VPN connectivity for remote users, for instance. It works with our security gateways, the USG Flex series, to do collaborative detection and response for a higher level of security on your wireless network. And the W series is also where you're going to find some of our advanced antenna technologies that you don't find on a lot of our competitors' products. So that's what the W series is getting you different than the N100 and up series. So let's talk about antennas. Your typical access point is optimized for ceiling placement. And this is true of just about everybody that's out there, with the exception being some devices have a directional antenna for creating point-to-point links and things like that. But the vast majority of access points are optimized for ceiling placement with omnidirectional antennas that rotate the signal out above that. Now, unfortunately, out in the real world, you don't always get to mount your access points on the ceiling directly above the area to be covered, and you have to mount them on the wall. Now, the downside of this is that antenna pattern is not optimized for wall placement, and you end up sending a lot of your signal up into the ceiling or down into the floor, wasting it. And in a multi-story building, depending on how thick those floors are and what they're made of, you may end up in a situation where you are causing interference with the access points on the floors below or above you. So our solution to that is one of our advanced antenna technologies. We call it dual optimized antennas. And the way this works is really straightforward. Instead of one ceiling optimized antenna, we give you two sets of antennas for each radio, one that's optimized for the ceiling, one that's optimized for the wall. And we allow you to go in the software and choose whether to use that ceiling antenna or the wall antenna. So those APs that are mounted on the ceiling, use ceiling. Those that you have to mount on a wall, you can switch over to the wall mode to help improve that antenna pattern to be optimized for the wall placement. The other advanced technology we have is called smart antenna. And fortunately, this is a generic term, and there are different things out there calling themselves smart antenna that many of which do not work like ours. Ours, if you're familiar with Ruckus's BeamFlex Plus, that is what ours is probably most similar to that you maybe have experienced with another vendor. And the idea behind smart antenna, I'm going to skip through these really quick, is that instead of having that one antenna pattern for the ceiling or two like our dual optimized antenna, we use an antenna array that has the ability to go through hundreds. So instead of just one or two, hundreds of different antenna patterns and choose an antenna pattern that is optimal for the situation. Now, the algorithm that we use optimizes the antenna pattern based on the relationship of the client device to our access point, but it also takes into account other sources of RF interference, regardless of whether they're other access points or industrial equipment or some other type of wireless device that might be using that same channel and spectrum, and chooses an antenna pattern that tries to allow us to ignore those sources of interference. So the benefits of this are significantly improved performance in tough RF environments, in particular in environments where you've either got a lot of client devices in the area or you've got a large number of access points in the area. So dense environments like schools, office buildings, conference centers, expo centers, things like that, it is ideal for. And because of the smart antenna technology, when you've deployed multiple APs with smart antenna, you can actually achieve greater than 100% airtime utilization. Some of the tests we've done in a hotel situation, we've been able to achieve up to 140% airtime utilization. So 40% more airtime being used than is theoretically supposed to be possible because of the way smart antenna works. Now, all of our business class APs are designed to last a long time and to have superior performance to some of our competition. So I want to go through some of these changes here of what we do that our competition doesn't. If you used to go to some of our older trade shows, we used to carry around some of our competition, including our more expensive competition, and allow you to feel the difference and see that our APs tend to weigh more. And we used to have it so you could open them up and look inside. The challenge with this has been that unfortunately, opening and closing these devices and carrying them from show to show ends up destroying them pretty quick. So I don't think we're doing that anymore, but we used to. And basically the difference with our design versus our competitors is you will see there is more shielding on the main board. And that is because we include not just EMI shielding or Wi-Fi shielding, but we include shielding for 4G and 5G cellular signals. So what happens in larger office buildings and hotels and apartments is that cellular service cannot penetrate the building very well. So these larger buildings deploy what is called a DAS system, DAS, which rebroadcasts the cellular signal from outside inside the building. They use what are called remote units, which are basically cellular access points, and deploy them throughout the building. They're often using the exact same cable drops that you're using for your Wi-Fi, so they can be located very closely to the access point and will oftentimes be broadcasting quite strong signals that border Wi-Fi signals and can cause bleed over and interference. So our extra shielding helps prevent that. The other thing we're doing here is when it comes to longevity, is we do not use electrolytic capacitors. Those have a tendency to fail over time. So instead, we only use solid state capacitors. We also design our products with the idea of heat fatigue. So heat fatigue is a very common point of failure on solid state devices like this. So our access points usually are going to be including some form of heat sink to draw the heat off the board and copious amounts of vent holes to allow the heat to escape from the housing. Where a lot of our competition has no heat sinks and in some cases it has no vent holes at all. So the heat builds up. And that's why a lot of those other competing products, even though they're roughly the same price as us, can only offer a 1 or 2 year warranty. And then lastly, the other thing we do is we don't mount our antennas directly onto the same PCBA as the rest of the chips. We mount them on their own separate board and usually have an RF shield below that that fits between the two to help create greater isolation from our antennas to the components on the board itself. So that's it as far as our quick overview of our wireless access points. Next up, we're going to start talking about our switch products. And we have a lot of switch products. So to make it easier when you're looking at our price list or pulling us up at distribution, I want to go through the switch naming because it helps kind of explain um, to you what that switch is capable of. So if you know our switch naming, you can pretty quickly figure out what that switch offers without having to pull up a data sheet or something like that. Our switch names are usually have a 2 or 3 letter prefix, a series of numbers, a dash, another couple numbers, and then a suffix. And my highlighter's not working. There we go. So you can see that there, like in this example here, we've got an XGS 1930-52HP. So the first letters there are telling you the capability of the switch, what type of ports it has. The 1930 or 1915 or 1100 or 2220, that is telling you the family of switches, which deals with the software features that that switch has. The dash then is telling us how many ports we have. Um, and that's one area where we're not consistent. Sometimes you will see a 24 port switch with a dash 24. Sometimes you will see it with a dash 28 or a dash 30. And that's because most of our switches, in addition to the main ports, usually have some uplink ports. Sometimes those uplink ports are counted in the naming. Sometimes they are not. I don't know what the logic is behind why sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. But just beware if you're looking for a 24 port switch, you may be looking actually for a dash 26 or 28 or something like that. And then there's the HP suffix, and that's telling you that this switch provides PoE. So just quickly to go through these, when it comes to the prefixes, an ES series switch is telling you that it only provides fast Ethernet, not something we offer here in the US market. RG is telling you it's a rugged switch, again, something we don't offer here that very much in North America. GS is probably these days our most common, and that's telling you that all of the ports on that switch are 1 gig copper Ethernet ports. MG is multi-gig, so that's telling you that the ports are multi-gig ports, either 2.5 or 5 gigabit. XGS, the GS is telling you most of the ports are 1 gig, and the X is telling you that there are 10 gig uplink ports on that switch. XMG is telling you that the main ports are multi-gig, but there are also 10 gig uplink ports. And then XS is telling you all of the ports are 10 gig ports. And then when it comes to the suffix, HP is telling you that it is a standard PoE power budget and is supporting either a PoE plus or PoE plus plus power levels. EP stands for Eco Power. So again, we are providing PoE plus or PoE plus plus support, but the overall power budget is generally about half of what we would consider standard power budget. So that's for those of you that just need a couple ports of PoE on a larger switch. You know, you're buying a 24 port switch, but you only need, 6 or 8 ports of PoE. The EP series is what you're looking for. And then the FP stands for full power, where basically the PoE power budget means you can do provide PoE across all ports on that switch. So a huge PoE budget and probably a price to go along with that. And then a suffix of S tells you that that is a fiber switch, and all of the ports on that switch are fiber. So when you look at our switches, we have a ton of different families of switches. So on the Soho or consumer side of things, these are the switches we've got up here on the screen right now. So these are our 100 series products, our GS105B or GS108B, our 1000 series switches, and our 1200 series switches. So here are GS105, the 100s here, and the GS1000s. These are unmanaged switches that are gigabit. Then we've got a whole series of multi-gig switches here, or switches with 10 gig uplinks, again, all unmanaged. So that's our MG100 series, XMG100 series, and our XGS1000s. And then on the 1200 series here, these are switches that have a very basic web GUI built into them. Some vendors call these smart managed or smart switches or app managed. So basic GUI, basic VLAN, not a lot of functionality above that. Jumping up from there is our business class switches. And most of these families that we're offering here are offering a rack mount on at least some of the models in the family, whereas our Soho switches are all desktop switches, no rack mounts. So that starts with our 1000 and 1100 series unmanaged switches, and then goes up to our 1900 series web managed switches, and then everything that's 1915 or higher. These are going to provide Nebula management. So if you're looking for cloud management, you want to go at least to the 1915 series. And then again, as you jump from 1915 to 1920 to 2220 to 3800, it's more features that are built into the switch. So as you jump up to the bigger numbers, the more features that are there. The 2000 series and higher have in addition to the web interface and the cloud interface, have a command line interface. So for those of you that like command line management, that like scripting, you're looking at our 2000 series and higher switches. And then our 3000 and 4000 series switches, these are our layer three switches that are designed for aggregation and things like that. Now, there is one switch family you may have noticed that doesn't really fit in with the rest, and that is our 1350 series of switches. These are a special line of switches that are designed specifically for IPTV security camera deployments. So these have some extra features that are ideal for that environment, although you may find some uses for those in other environments as well. So some of the things they can do is they can provide data and PoE greater than 100 meters, which is typically the standard cutoff for a copper Ethernet run. So these can do greater than 100 meters. Slower speeds, but they work with any type of Ethernet compatible device. Doesn't need anything special on the client. They have the ability to monitor connected devices, and when they become non-responsive, power cycle them to reboot them. And these will also continue providing PoE power as the switch itself reboots. So if you push out a firmware update, the switch will go offline for a little bit to install that firmware update, but your connected devices won't be rebooted. And there's some other features as well, but those are the main highlights there. So sort of here are our highlights as it comes to our switches. Again, anything 1915 and higher can be cloud managed if you would so choose. But we have a complete lineup of everything from desktop unmanaged all the way up to full layer 3 switches for you. Full range of PoE offerings from unmanaged Soho switches all the way up to full power switches. And I talked about this a little bit earlier, but we use what's called Zynos on all of our 1915 and higher managed switches, which ensures you get the same interface in the web GUI, the same interface in the command line, the same interface in the cloud, regardless of which series of switches you are using, which is very different from a lot of our competition. And similar to our access points, our hardware is built to last. We have a special SFP module that is patented just to us that helps automatically recover issues with your SFP port if you tend to have an issue there. Our hardware is designed to help vent out heat so you don't get that thermal buildup inside the switch itself, which can lead to long-term failure. We're all using all solid-state capacitors, just like the access points, and have additional noise filtering built in on the power in to make sure that doesn't interfere or cause problems with your data. So I put this slide in here because we get a lot of questions, hey, I'm upgrading my customer's network. They already have some sort of Ethernet deployed. Do I need to tear out and replace what they've got and do new cable runs? So just to show you here, Cat 5e and higher supports PoE++. So anything from PoE to PoE++, which is the 60-watt PoE, works even with Cat 5e. And Cat 5e can provide 5 gig multi-gig service up to 100 meters. It is not going to work on your 10 gig copper connections though. So if you're doing 10 gig runs, you want to use at least Cat 6, but be aware Cat 6 is going to be limited to around 55 meters. And then if you're doing 100-meter 10 gig runs, you do want to be using Cat 6A or better Ethernet cables. And then lastly, let's talk a little bit about PoE because I've found a lot of people aren't that familiar with it. Basically, these days, there's 3 different standards that come to PoE, and there's a couple different names that you will see out there. So generally, the IEEE terms are 802.3 AF, 802.3 AT, and 802.3 BT, but you will also often see them described as PoE, PoE plus, and PoE plus plus. And the difference between these 3 is how much power can be put out on that device. So PoE devices are capped at 15.4 watts of power per port. PoE plus is capped at 30 watts of power per port, and PoE++ provides up to 60 watts of power at port. Now, do be aware that this voltage or power drops over distance. So if you've got a device that needs, 29 or 28 watts of power, and you're doing a long run, you may not have enough power at the end of that cable run to power it up, especially if you've got older cable that's been out there for a while and it's been stepped on or kinked. It can cause the PoE power drop. So you may need to either run new cable or upgrade your switch to a higher power level so it can put out additional power to make sure it's getting enough power at the endpoint. And then in addition to the switches themselves, we do carry our own line of SFP and SFP plus modules, as well as direct attach cables for those of you that are doing stacking. Now, unlike some other vendors, we do not lock you into only using our SFP modules. Although we do highly suggest you stick with it, we cannot offer support if you run into issues with third-party SFPs, but you can use them if you would like to. So just to highlight here, multi-gig switches. We've got a lot of different switches that are available that support multi-gig or higher speeds. So that's what this slide here is just showing you everything from unmanaged desktop switches, again, up to layer 3 aggregation switches and everything in between. And multi-gig is obviously something that's becoming much more in demand. Your higher resolution cameras need it, your faster access points need it. And if you're in an area where people are deploying fiber, often your ISP is providing multi-gig speeds. So obviously customers would want their network to be able to be just as fast as their WAN connection. And then when it comes to PoE power here, I wanted to highlight here again, we've got a large number of different types of switches that can provide PoE plus and PoE plus plus power. So PoE plus plus, that 60 watt of power, you will find it is required for faster tri-radio Wi-Fi 7 access points. They just require too much power. You're providing, data rates of 20 gigs or faster. You've got 3 radios that have to run, and you have an SoC that has to process all of that data. So it does require more power on those faster devices. Also, on a lot of your higher resolution pan tilt zoom IP cameras, they require this higher output power to be able to power them. Now, if you need to plug in and power up a couple of devices, but you don't want to replace your existing switches, you've only got a couple ports that need it. We do also sell PoE injectors that provide PoE plus and PoE plus plus power. So our PoE 12-30W, it's got a 2.5 gig Ethernet in and out and can provide 30 watts of power. Our PoE 12-60 watt can provide 5 gig multi-gig connections and provides full 60 watts of power coming out of it. So that is it for switches. And again, if you joined us late, if you have questions, send them in using the chat interface in Zoom. I'm moving on now to our security appliances. So our security appliance line at this time is in a bit of a transition state. So I wanted to sort of cover everything that's either currently available or has been available until recently. So basically, we've had three different series of products. Our core series of product has been the USG Flex. Then we had the ATP series, with ATP standing for Advanced Threat Protection. And then we've got sort of our Soho line of products, which is the USG Lite series. So as mentioned, there was a transition. Let me see, what's my next slide here? Now I'm gonna stay off the next slide. So I'm gonna stay here for a minute. So basically, we've got a couple things that have happened. So instead of splitting our product line between traditional UTM and advanced threat management, we are eliminating the ATP series of products and making that advanced threat protection an optional license for the USG Flex series. So there may still be some ATPs floating around out there, but they are going away and everything will just be USG Flex. Now, on top of that, we are in the process of phasing out the USG Flex and replacing it with the USG Flex H series. So why are we doing that? So basically, as I was mentioning in a slide before, internet connections are getting faster. Multi-gig WAN connections are becoming very, very common, especially in big cities and areas where there's enough density to support fiber deployments. So because of that, we've been having problems keeping up with the throughput. So the H series is a brand new hardware platform and a brand new software platform that was developed in-house that is going to be able to provide much faster speeds than our legacy USG Flex series products. Now, because this is a new software platform as well as hardware platform, the feature set available in the H doesn't at this moment quite match what's been available in the USG Flex series. They are getting very close to parity, and they should be at parity by, I think, June, maybe May, June, something like that. So eventually the H series will replace the USG Flex series entirely. But because it's not a one-to-one parity situation now, it may not be, you may not be ready to make the move over to the H series yet. There may be some features you need which aren't quite available yet. One of the main differences is when it comes to Nebula management. So if you're using the Nebula cloud, the H series is still missing some of the features in Nebula that is available in the non-H series. But just to keep in mind, by this summer, everything should be H series and these should be feature comparable. And then we had launched what was originally the SCR series. It has been renamed to the USG Lite series. And these are our sort of Soho lightweight security home routers designed to compete with something like, some of the Netgear security routers or the Ubiquiti Dream Machine type lightweight security routers, which don't provide those full UTM features of your traditional business security firewall, but maybe all that's needed for a small office or a very small business. So what we're highlighting here is some of the differences between the USG Flex series. This is talking about the USG Flex, but it's basically the same as the H series here. And basically, if you look at the number on the model, that is telling you what sort of features you can get. So our entry level USG Flex and in the future USG Flex H series is the 50, which provides some basic true security appliance type stuff. And then everything above that is basically providing the same level of service as far as full UTM functionality. But these 100s and higher, they give you the ability to choose between traditional UTM and that advanced threat protection. So I guess I should try to explain that. I do not remember if I've got a slide coming up that talks about it, but basically advanced threat protection, or let me go back. UTM traditionally has been, antivirus, anti-spam, intrusion detection and prevention. That is done through signatures. Basically, As new threats come out, you generate signatures to identify them and you push those signatures out to your security firewall. ATP, or Advanced Threat Protection, is a new way of doing this that uses the cloud and artificial intelligence and sandboxing to try to provide faster responses to zero-day threats. So basically, every device that is running this becomes a node in a cloud. And as your device or some other device in that cloud detects a new form of traffic that is sandboxed or captured, put into a cloud hosted sandbox where it is run through an evaluation process using artificial intelligence to see what is this new type of thing I have discovered. Is it just, a new type of web streaming, or is it a new zero-day exploit? Identify what it is, and then be able to push that knowledge out to everybody in the cloud, that, hey, here's this new thing, it's good or it's bad. So it gives you a much faster response time than traditional UTM appliances. So that is now an option for you here, which gives you that sandboxing and some reputational type IP filters that you can use. So an area where we are doing this differently than a lot of our competitors in this space is our focus is on making network appliances. That's what we've been doing for 35 years now. What we are not is we are not an antivirus company. We are not an IDP company. We are not a web content filtering company. And most of our competition tries to do all of that. What we have done instead is we have partnered up with best in class companies that provide those services as part of their core business. And then we have licensed that technology from them, either in the form of license signature files or in the terms of software that is running as part of our cloud offering solution. So we have partnered with companies such as WebRoot, Norton, Bitdefender, Siren, etc. And when it comes to our cloud platforms, instead of trying to build our own cloud infrastructure, we use Amazon Web Services for Nebula and our other cloud offerings. So we find that this is a better way of doing that rather than trying to be a jack of all trades. We focus on what we do good, and we partner with people who focus on what they do good. So one of the nice things here is even if you buy one of our devices that doesn't become bundled with UTM services, you can get free trials of all of that. So we offer 30-day free trials of the content filtering, 30-day free trial of our secure Wi-Fi functionality, 30-day trial of our Connect and Protect, and a 30-day trial of our Gold security license, which is that advanced threat protection. So you can test it out for 30 days before committing to buying a license to use these advanced features. So this is kind of giving you a breakdown here on the H series of what you get with the license versus what you get without the license. So without a license, you get obviously NAT, you get stateful packet inspection, you get all your traditional firewall rules and policies that you can put in place, the ability to protect from DDoS attacks, the ability to do VPN. Licenses are required to do anti-malware, antivirus, content filtering, sandboxing, intrusion detection and prevention, application patrol, reputation filters, email security. Our reporting platform requires you use our security licenses. And then if you want to use Nebula ProPack, that is an optional license. So I'm not going to go through each of these, but these are all the different types of licenses that are included in either the standard UTM bundle or that security gold bundle. And then some of the additional features here that are part of our platform is we have the ability, as I was mentioning earlier, to use our security gateway, our USG Flex series, as a local wireless LAN controller. We have the ability to do device high availability. So if one device goes down, the second fails over. We have the ability through a license to convert our firewall product into a software-defined WAN solution. We have the ability to use that USG Flex as a hotspot management platform with captive portal. And we have the ability to do single sign-on. So when it comes to our security appliance products, we're not that big in North America, but we are pretty big in Europe and globally. You can see here for in Europe, when it comes to SMB firewall products, we have 15% of the market share in Europe. And then when it comes to global, we are 6% market share when it comes to these types of security appliances. So I was mentioning single sign-on. So that's one of the nice things that we do here is we give you the ability basically to be able to use one user account for Nebula, use that same account for managing your security appliances, using it for purchasing and managing your licenses, etc., using it for our reporting platform. It's all done through a single account. And then when it comes to network management, as we've talked about before, we have our cloud-based management platform, Nebula, with the core version being free. And then also for those of you that don't want to use cloud, that want to do on-premise management, we have the Zyxel One Network and some of the software that we have available for that. That makes it easy to find and discover your Zyxel products on your network. So when it comes to on-premise management, we have that built-in wireless LAN controller. We have our zone utility software and the Smart Connect, which is the ability for Zyxel devices to find other Zyxel devices and easily jump from one to the other without having to leave the GUI or jump back to a tool that you are on. I'm just going to skip past all of this. It's kind of repetitive. So another tool that we've got, since this is for those of you that might be new, is we do have training available to you. So you can log into our education center. You just Google Zyxel Education Center, and we've got a number of different tiers of trainings and certifications that are available to you. Now, here's the thing. Some of these require that you pay for them. But if you are a partner, which you probably are since you're joined this webinar, talk to your salesperson. So reach out to Andy, David, or Jacob, and they can get you free codes to be able to access the higher tiers of training without needing to pay for it. So don't pay for the training if you don't need to. Talk to your salesperson, they'll get you hooked up on it. And then when it comes to e-commerce, we get a lot of confusion over the different tiers of what we've got. So I want to talk about it briefly here for you. For end users, we have three different things here for you. The main one here is our Zyxel store. This is the ability to buy Zyxel product directly at full street price through our Zyxel store. It's just, I think, store.zyxel.com. It is fulfilled by Amazon. So that is one thing that is available for people. When it comes to licenses, we have Marketplace. Now, if you are one of our partners, you should not be using Marketplace. And some of you are, so don't. You need to use as a partner what's called Circle. So Marketplace is an ability for end users to be able to buy licenses online and have them apply. And Marketplace is integrated with Nebula. So if you are in Nebula, your licenses are expiring, you can go into Nebula. It'll show you what licenses you need and give you the option to buy them through Marketplace at street price. Now, if you are a partner, you should be signed up for Circle. Now, it is a separate short application. So basically, once you have become a Zyxel partner, bronze, silver, gold, you have access to Circle. So apply for that. And then you can buy your licenses through Circle, which give you much cheaper prices than if you buy it through Marketplace. So always buy through Circle. And again, Nebula has integration with Circle. So you can go into Nebula, it'll tell you what licenses you need. You can hit a button and it will take you to Circle and automatically put those in a shopping cart for you. And then you can have it, once you purchase them, automatically apply those licenses back to that same customer site you were just managing. So use Circle for that. So one of the questions we get is, do I buy it through Circle or do I buy it through distribution? So the short version is you can do either. Circle is easier. Generally, distribution is cheaper. So if you aren't in a rush, you can go into Nebula. It will give you a breakdown of the licenses you need to purchase. And you can simply give that to distribution and they can fulfill it. And in a day or two, they will email you the licenses. Or if you don't mind paying a little bit more and want to get it quicker, you can use Circle. And again, be sure you're signed up with Circle. Every week when I'm processing our sales reports, I see our partners, gold partners, silver partners, buying at full street price through Marketplace. So again, if you haven't signed up for Circle, sign up for Circle. Um, and so this is just highlighting here how Circle interfaces with Nebula. Basically, you can go in there, you can go into an organization, you can choose basically what month you want all of your licenses, whether they're Nebula licenses or security licenses, to expire. And it will automatically generate and tell you how many annual licenses you need, how many monthly licenses you need. So you can buy those through distribution, or you can then relay that through automatically into Circle and purchase and apply those. So that way everything expires at the same time. And with that, guys, we are done with today's webinar. So again, if you have questions, send them in now through chat. I do want to highlight here, most of our webinars, if you've missed one, if you had to leave early, if you got here late, are archived on our YouTube channel. There are lots of different Zyxel YouTube channels from each of our different global divisions. So if you are looking for something that we've done here in North America, Zyxel America channel is where you would find it on YouTube. You will also find video case studies, best practices videos, product launch announcements, how-to guides, all sorts of good stuff mixed in there. There's probably too much stuff because all of our webinars go there and they sort of flood out the other stuff, but there is stuff there if you're willing to wade through it on YouTube for you. And then also, while I'm still waiting for some questions here, we do have user forums, forum.zyxel.com, where you can go and interact with other Zyxel users and installers. But the other cool thing about our online platform is that our headquarters does use that platform. They monitor it for feedback, features people are looking for and wanting to use it to judge demand of where they should be putting their R&D focus. And they do occasionally wade in and answer questions or provide support through that forum. It's also usually the first place that you're going to find firmware release notes, security announcements, all sorts of things like that. So, make it a habit to check it out from time to time to see what's going on. Okay, I haven't gotten any questions, so I am going to go ahead and end today's webinar. I do hope I see you on our other webinars. Generally, Tuesdays are where we do sort of our more in-depth webinars. Thursdays are usually where we're doing sort of our overview and more salesy type webinars. And then I think some of the sales guys do their own webinars on Wednesdays. So I hope to see you at some of those. And feel free to email me if you have feedback on today's presentation, if you have suggestions for webinars you'd like to see in the future, etc. Thank you, everyone.